All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. Look, whenever we hear about the Strait of Hormuz, it's almost always about global tension, right? You picture naval fleets, press briefings, and geopolitical drama. But today, we're going to completely strip away those headlines. We are going to bypass all of that noise to reveal the absolutely incredible, almost unimaginable reality of the strait itself. We're looking at a place shaped by sheer tectonic violence and ancient geology. It's a place where everyday survival is literally a masterclass in adaptation. To really wrap our heads around the scale of what we're talking about here, we have to start with a staggering number: 21 million. Every single day, 21 million barrels of oil squeeze through this incredibly narrow 21-mile-wide geographic choke point. I mean, that is 1/5 of everything the modern world burns to keep the lights on. And it's been like this for a long time. For 5,000 years, whoever controlled this tiny little corridor of water basically controlled the world's breath, from the ancient Persians to the Portuguese, right up to our modern oil markets. But, there's a massive disconnect in how we actually view this region. The entire world watches that trillion-dollar oil flow like hawks, but we completely ignore the 6,000 everyday people surviving right next door on the island of Hormuz. We're talking about a harsh, groundwater-free, volcanic salt rock sitting right next to the busiest shipping lanes on Earth. It's just this staggering contrast, right? Immense global wealth floating right past a community living on literally one of the most rugged terrains imaginable. Section 1. Landscapes of Geological Extremes. Let's get into it. So the island of Hormuz looks the way it does because of this wild geological mechanism called salt diaparism. Basically, imagine ancient salt deposits buried way, way deep underground under immense tectonic pressure. Over hundreds of millions of years, that salt was physically pushed upward through the Earth's crust, and it dragged minerals like basalt and iron compounds right up with it. The result? The surface literally ruptured into these vibrant bands of red ochre, sulfur yellow, chalky white, and deep violet. The island didn't just casually form this way. This improbable color palette was violently pushed into existence. And you see that quote from NASA? That is not just some poetic metaphor. Because of those iron compounds and mineral deposits, the chemical composition of Hormuz genuinely mirrors the surface of Mars. Seriously, if you're standing on the island's ridges at midday, just baking in the heat, surrounded by these rusted orange and violet rocks, it absolutely feels like you've left Earth's atmosphere entirely. But wait, the weirdness doesn't stop there. Just nearby, on Kejm Island, you've got Stars Valley. This is a 22-mile-long labyrinth of eroded gypsum, sandstone, and salt canyons. Over thousands of years, wind, rain, and soil chemistry just hollowed out these massive pillars. The geology is so spectacularly otherworldly that the locals genuinely believe these formations weren't made by wind at all, but were actually sculpted by the impact of falling meteorites. It's this haunting place defined by absolute silence, where the only sound you hear is just the wind shifting through the rock passages. Which brings us to Section 2, Ecosystems Defying the Odds. Okay, to truly grasp the climate extremes of this region, we've got to look just inland to the Dasht-e Lut Desert. Are you ready for this? A blistering 159 degrees Fahrenheit. That is the highest land surface temperature ever recorded on Earth, confirmed by NASA satellites. The thermal core of this basin is completely lifeless. No vegetation, no fungi, not even bacteria have been confirmed to survive there. It's just an absolute crushing void of heat. Yet, incredibly, just 500 miles away from that 159-degree thermal void lies the Hyrcanian forest. This is an 850,000-acre ancient temperate broadleaf woodland that has been growing continuously for up to 50 million years. I mean, it survived the ice ages and the drying out of West Asia simply by being in the exact right topological spot. It's pressed right up against the Alborz Mountains, which act like a giant wall trapping moisture from the Caspian Sea. It is literally a living fossil of the ancient world. And back on the coast, life is pulling off similar miracles. In the Hara Biosphere Reserve, you'll find these dense mangrove forests that have been operating without interruption for 30 million years. These trees literally perform biological desalination. They drink in the salt water, filter it through their roots, and then actually excrete the pure salt right out of their leaves as fine white crystals. And if that wasn't enough, their aerial roots engineer their own oxygen in the suffocating oxygen-deprived mud. They're operating with a level of precision that human industry hasn't even come close to matching. You start to see this impossible survival everywhere you look here. Just beneath the shipping lanes, the coral reefs around Hormuz routinely survive 35 degrees Celsius waters. To put that in perspective, anywhere else in the Indo-Pacific or the Caribbean, that kind of temperature triggers immediate mass bleaching and death. It's game over. Yet here, they thrive. These reefs are essentially a living scientific record of accumulated thermal tolerance built up over millennia. Moving on to Section 3, Empires Claimed by Nature. So back in 1507, the Portuguese Empire decided they wanted to control global trade. Naturally, they built this massive commercial stone fortress right on Hormuz, using the island's own red stone. But here's the catch. They didn't really understand the material they were building with. That stone is incredibly rich in iron oxide and minerals, so when it's exposed to the intense salt air and humidity of the strait, it reacts aggressively. Fast forward to today, and the fortress is literally dissolving. It's just melting back into the red earth it was dug from. The island is quietly, slowly reclaiming the empire's grand monument. And today, that exact same tension plays out visually in the Musandam Peninsula. In these super tight, vertical limestone fjords, you have monolithic supertankers, vessels carrying more oil than some countries use in a week, just carefully navigating these treacherous corridors. And then operating right next to them, literally sharing the exact same water, are tiny wooden fishing dhows. It's two completely different scales of human ambition, operating under totally different survival logics, in the exact same dangerous space. All right, Section 4, Human Adaptation and Survival. This is where it gets really fascinating. Over in the Musandam Peninsula, the indigenous Shihuh people figured out a long time ago that you don't fight hostile geography, you adapt to it. Instead of trying to build on the tiny little slivers of flat land, they built their entire villages vertically, right into the sheer limestone cliff faces. This brilliant move gave them shelter from the brutal seasonal storms that rip through the strait, and it perfectly hid them from the endless parade of maritime empires sailing just below. Their survival knowledge is literally vertical. And back on Hormuz, the people there literally absorb their environment. Life here isn't run by the clock. It's completely run by the tides. The women carry massive economic weight, actively working the sun-drenched shorelines. That's actually why they wear those striking, practical boro-gay masks, to protect their faces from the intense, fierce glare of the water. They wear these vibrant cobalt and crimson clothes, so they aren't visually erased by the harsh landscape. But honestly, the most mind-blowing adaptation? They actually use the iron-rich red soil of the island, locally called golik, in their food. They mix it directly into fermented fish sauce and literally spread it on their morning flatbread. The geology of the island literally enters the kitchen and the body. Which leads us to our final part. Section 5, a map of our future. So why does all of this matter to us? Well, this extreme, resource-scarce, totally overheated region isn't just some bizarre geographic anomaly. As our oceans warm up and our global weather patterns become more extreme, this place actually serves as a preview of humanity's future on a rapidly warming planet. The people and the ecosystems of the Strait of Hormuz show us a world where adaptation isn't just an optional strategy you can choose. It is the absolute baseline condition for existence. As we watch the coral reefs survive impossible heat, and the mangroves desalinate the ocean, and the people of Hormuz thrive on a literal volcanic salt rock, it leaves us with one powerful, really provocative question. As our own global climate shifts and the world we know changes, how do we live within conditions we simply cannot control? And honestly, looking at the deep ancient time of this incredible landscape, what was stability ever worth believing in anyway? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope it completely shifted how you see this corner of the globe. Catch you next time.